Why are you so angry? Because you're... Rod trails off and looks away. Because you're family. So you're finally acknowledging me as family. Oh, fuck. Well, we got family zone.
Lives in a monochrome world, working from the side through her lonely eyes. It reflects the ocean and stars, but her cry echoes around the simple loss of love in her heart, making this whole fairy tale alive. Within sorrow's tender embrace, this was never meant to happen. Of the day, the only reason you have to stay. Hear me sing my song and just keep holding on. Cinderella, why don't you stay with me tonight? We will dance until midnight comes and we could run away. Oh, we will never ever be apart. Set aside all your fears, this magic lives inside your heart. I am here, would you wanna stay with me tonight? Follow me, we will run across the bridge of fantasy. Oh, all the pain and sadness that you feel, believe in me, hold me close, don't ever let me go. Come and stay with me forever, magic lives so long as I am here.
Sup guys, my name's Renna Dragneel and welcome back to Cinderella Phenomenon. So last where we left off, Rod seems to be warming up to us even more, and Sebby is being more of the wingman to us, and he complimented us. And we smiled. Twice. We got to see the second smile, which is cute. Protect Lucette's smile, man. Just protect it. Excuse me. Well, I think we're just gonna continue moving on forward, so let's go. Today is the first time I am leaving the palace on a day off. Usually, I choose to stay inside, whereas the other servants always leave to go home. I never see any reason to leave since this has always been my home, and the merchant has never been home. Besides, it is not as if I want to return. Not after that conversation we all shared last time. Thus, I have spent most of my days asking questions about Mother's reign, inquiring when and where I can. The opinions do not surprise me. I was so scared of her. One wrong move and she'd have you thrown in prison. The townsfolk would always wait for her to pass by before leaving their houses. She was a tyrant. The kingdom is a better place now that she's gone. There's no reason for them to lie to me. The more I hear, the more my old life makes sense to me. I now know why the king never seemed to love Mother and why the people hated her, and the reason people looked at me with such fear. However, it had been months since I had been glared at in public. If there is one good thing that this curse did for me, it is that it allows me to travel around town without being noticed. As Vairika's shop comes into view, my thoughts shift to the reason I have left the palace in the first place. If Rod will not tell me anything, I will have to ask Vairika. She must be related in some way to his curse. I pause outside the door to the toy shop. With a deep breath, I push the door open. Welcome! The moment she sees me, her expression becomes confused. Oh, you're the princess's maid. Rena, wasn't it? I nodded her. You've never come in here alone before. What can I help you with? I wanted to ask you something. It is about Prince Rod. Prince Rod? Did something happen to him? Is he okay? He is fine. She sighs with relief. Then what is it you would like to ask? I just wanted to know if you knew anything about Prince Rod's sudden muteness. Vairika stares at me for a few moments before she shakes her head. I only know that it happened soon after I met my fiancé, Desmond. What reason do you have for asking? Well, I try to think of a plausible explanation for this, and I immediately consider Emmeline. Vyrika is Emmeline's best friend. Surely she would be willing to help if she knew what I was doing this for Emmeline. Prince Rod has been very quiet recently. Princess Emmeline has been worried sick about him, but he refuses to say anything, even to her. I have been trying to gather information that might be helpful in discerning the cause. I stare at her expectantly, hoping that my gaze holds nothing but determination. Finally, Vyrika smiles. She's lucky to have a dedicated friend like you. I am still not accustomed to the fact that Emmeline considers me a friend. Before she became the princess, I was her first confidant. We were like sisters. But now that she's living in the castle, we no longer have the luxury of spending so much time together. I worry about her constantly. Even around me, Em always tended to keep her problems to herself at first. She doesn't like to bother other people with them. It is hard not to agree. With the way Emmeline was always smiling before, I never thought she had any problems in her life. It was only recently that I discovered that she was hiding all her loneliness and pain behind a smile. It's a relief that she's befriended someone who cares so much about her. I don't know if I can be much help, but I'll tell you what I know if it will help Emmeline. To start with, I'm not exactly sure how everything changed, but it all happened so suddenly. All I know is that after the night I met Desmond, our relationship changed. At first, he still smiled, but recently he's been avoiding me. What happened between the two of you the night you met your fiancé? Nothing. Rod and I did not meet on that day. Prince Rod wasn't there? But soon after what happened that night, Rod grew distant. What happened? It was a stormy night, and I was heading back home. I took the route by the riverbank because it was the shortest route. It was foolish of me. The road was slippery and full of mud. I lost my footing and fell into the water. The waves were strong, and I was certain I was going to drown. I don't remember what happened in the darkness of that winter, only that when I woke up, my head was in Desmond's lap. That was the first time we met, but not the last. He carried me home, and he came by every day as I was recovering. And then he came to visit even after I had recovered. I tried not to get my hopes up too much, because what could this nobleman see in me? A mere commoner. But I still ended up falling in love with him. You have no idea how happy I was when he said he loved me too. It was a dream come true. Of course, every girl dreams of marrying a prince. It was in all of the fairy tales I read as a child. None of that was at all related to Rod. How does this relate to his curse? You said your relationship with Prince Rod changed after that night. What happened? Vyrika sighs. I told Em and Ron about Desmond soon after the incident. Em was happy that the two of us had fallen in love, but Rod didn't say much of anything. That was when I noticed he started growing distant, and when I realized that he had also lost his voice. He still won't tell me anything, but I figured that he was... Her voice fades, but I know that she is referring to the curse. So Rod lost his voice shortly after Vyrika met Desmond. The mermaid's curse must have something to do with the tale. What if Desmond cursed him? That could have been it, I think. I'm just thinking what might have happened, but I could be wrong. The little mermaid traded her voice for legs so that she could be with her prince. But that night, the only person who found their prince charming was Vyrika. Rod's curse must have something to do with Desmond and Vyrika. He became distant with her after finding out about Desmond. Why? Then there is the fact that he still spoke to Vyrika, even if he was distant. It was only when he found out about their wedding that he became so cold. I frowned as I tried to organize my thoughts. How did it get to be this late? I'm so sorry, Reina, but I have to close the shop now. Sorry for the story. I know it has nothing to do with Rod, but it was after that incident that he began to act strangely. I don't think I was much help, but... I shake my head. You have told me what you could. Vyrika walks to me to the door, opening it so that the both of us can step out onto the street together. I really hope that you're able to help Emmeline with Rod. Help Emmeline and Rod. Oops. I hope so too. Did you see Ophelia the other day? I catch the sight of two noble women sitting on a bench together, not too far away from the toy shop. They are referring to Ophelia without her title. How disrespectful. Who would have thought a peasant like her could almost look like royalty? But her dress. As the queen, she ought to be wearing silks rather than satin. Oops. I do not know why, but I bristle at their comments. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but the fact that they are speaking so bluntly in public means that they have little worry of being overheard. I'm still not sure what the king saw in her. Well, you know what they say about ladies lacking natural beauty. Her talents must lie in other, more persuasive areas. She must be very persuasive indeed if the king saw it worthwhile to marry her. Wow. As the two women laugh, I feel something hot begin to burn in my stomach. Vairika takes in a sharp breath beside me. Since I became a maid in the palace, Ophelia has been nothing but kind to me, a mere servant. She has all the right to flaunt her status and title, yet she remains humble. I now know that this is why everyone at the palace loves her. Common women like her can only keep a man's attention for so long. I start walking toward them without thinking. Rena, I wouldn't... You have no right to say those things about the queen. The two women are clearly surprised at my interruption. Both of them glare at me. And you have no right to eavesdrop on us. Eavesdropping? Anyone could have heard you. Their mouths fall open. One of the women looks at me for a long time, then sneers suddenly, as if something has occurred to her. I thought you looked familiar. You're the crown princess's personal maid. I see you always following her around when she's in town. This is none of your business, girl. Why do you have to care so much for our opinions? Perhaps it's because the girl idolizes the queen, thinks she might also go from rags to riches. What? Oh, you do have a point. They stand and advance toward me. Do you want the prince for yourself, girl? If a commoner can become the queen, it's not too difficult to imagine yourself as a princess, is it? How foolish! You're better off dreaming smaller dreams, girl. They laugh, and the irritation in my chest blazes into full-on anger. Oh shit. Is this what Ophelia has been dealing with for the past year? She is being treated so cruelly when she has done nothing but love the king. And I also ridiculed her just like this. I force myself to look at the cruel woman as I move my hand to the pendant hanging around my neck. I was just as cruel as them. I barely feel Vairika's hand as she rests it against my shoulder. Rena, let it go. Her Majesty wouldn't want you to do this. But I cannot just let these two women talk about Ophelia like this. I pull away from Vairika and stand firm. The queen has a good heart. She is far more noble than either of you could have ever hoped to be. I think back on the times I was cruel to her. Ophelia could have easily reprimanded me for my behavior. She had that right as my stepmother, yet she has been nothing but kind to me. Ophelia never got angry at me, even despite my treatment toward her and her family. She has always treated others with kindness, even when they are cruel to her. Judging from the bitterness in your accusations, it seems like you are jealous of her. How pathetic. The other woman marches toward me, and my free hand instinctively moves to hold her hand just before her palm reaches my cheek. Ooh, you almost got me there, bitch! I will not tolerate any insults toward the queen. A soft light emanates from the pendant, and I can only stare at it in shock. I got another good deed? By defending Ophelia? The woman snatches her hand away. How dare a peasant like you talk that way to us? Have you no manners? I could ask you the same. What happened to yours? How dare you? Don't you know who we are, girl? I will see you pay for your impertinence. Our words have far more weight than yours ever will. I will go to the king myself to tell him about how rude you were. I can pass that message myself. Oh shit! All right! Hi. I turn and see Rod walking toward us, his expression cold. The two noble women hastily curtsy. Your Highness! The noble women turn pale as Rod's eyes fall on them. Ha! You're screwed now! Actually, we have an important dinner engagement. Yes, we do. The two noble women curtsy before quickly departing. What are you doing here with all your guards? What trouble have you gotten yourself into now? Shit! Okay, hold on. I'm gonna save. Okay. So one of you in the comments have told me next time not to tell him. Of course, they're like, you'll see what I mean next time. So I think this is what they meant. So I guess I can't tell him what happened. So I'm gonna not tell him. It is nothing. If you refuse to tell me what happened, I will have to assume that the noblewoman were telling the truth about you. Rena has done nothing wrong. In fact, I think Rena only did what you or Emmeline would have done had you heard the awful things those women were saying about your mother. What? She stood up for the queen when she didn't have to. Then why didn't you just say so? Would you have believed me? Yeah, I see the point. Rod drops his gaze from mine. You never gave me the chance to believe you, did you? He would have believed me? How am I to know that? Rod is like a walking contradiction. I second that. I second that. Rod glances up again, this time to look at Viorica. We shouldn't keep you from returning home, Viorica. I'll take Rena back to the palace. Viorica's eyes narrow and she looks ready to say something, but Rod has already reached out for my hand to pull me along behind him. Sorry. Was that not the right choice? I know one of you told me not to tell him, but I'm gonna go back and see the other choice, so I'll just be right back. I'm gonna tell him. Just tell him. Those women were insulting the queen. I thought a lecture was in order. Oh, but everyone is entitled to their own opinion. What? I narrow my eyes at him. Something like this can't be helped. Bad rumors are unavoidable. Rod looks away, his expression suddenly pained. This wouldn't have happened if I hadn't wished for... Rod never finishes the sentence. He clears his throat before looking at us again. What was he going to say? Oh, so I guess there's no points, for that. Sure, I'm gonna choose to not tell him, actually, so let me go back to where we were. I'll choose not to tell him, and I'll go back to where we were before. Alright, back here. When we are out of sight of Viorica's shop, Rod stops, releasing my hand as he turns to face me. Did you really think that I would refuse to believe you if you told me the truth? You never liked me. You have no reason to believe me. Rod sighs, running a hand through his hair. I told you that I would help you break your curse, right? That offer alone should be enough for you to know that I... Rod turns away, suddenly looking embarrassed. Aw, he's cute. He's so cute being embarrassed. That I don't dislike you anymore. Oh! I didn't even realize. I gained a point for that. You were expecting me to just assume that? How would I know unless you made that absolutely clear? Well, I'm making it clear now. I understand. Anyway, thank you for standing up for my mother. It seems like you don't require my assistance in breaking your curse after all. He gestures to my necklace. Congratulations on your second good deed, Rena. His smile is cute too. You gotta protect his smile too, okay? Suddenly tongue-tied, I find myself looking everywhere but at Rod. When I have once again gathered my senses, I turn to the road. My eyes narrow as I recognize the path we are on. This is not the way back to the palace. No, it isn't. We're going to the Martin. Why? Because I was on my way there before. I was forced to take a detour because someone was drawing attention to herself. Excuse you, I was trying to help. What? But Rod ignores me, and we walk the rest of the way to the Martin in silence. Waltz is the only person in the reception room when we enter. Waltz! Prince Rod? Princess? It's a little late for the two of you to be here. I had meant to be here earlier. Is Lady Parfait here? Waltz nods. I'll go get her. Wait here. I miss Waltz. I miss Karma. I miss Rumple. I miss them all. Oh my gosh. It's just like every time I come to the march and I'm just like, I want to see them, but it's like late in the night, so they're probably sleeping, and I'm just like, I want to go to the room and say hi. As soon as Waltz leaves us alone, Rod turns to me, his expression rigid. Rod steps closer and grabs my shoulders. What are you doing? I wasn't able to say so earlier because we were out in public, but you should know just how much danger you're in now, and yet you thought it was okay to go around on your own? It was my day off today. It is not unreasonable for me to want time for myself. Time to yourself? Don't you understand the meaning of be careful? Why would you do something as foolish as going out into town alone? I cannot help but bristle at his tone. Why are you so angry? Because you're... Rod trails off and looks away. Because you're family. So you're finally acknowledging me as family. Oh, fuck. Well, we got family zone. I noticed his cheeks turning red. To be honest, you're less of a family member and more just important. Oh, he's starting to fall in love with us. Important? Because of all that you do for Emma Lane. You're important to my sister. He looks uncomfortable as he says the words, and I cannot help but marvel at his embarrassment. Why is he so embarrassed? But Rod changes the topic as he turns away from me. Why were you with Viorica? No reason. Just chatting. I can only think of one reason you'd speak to her. Shit. My curse. You thought you'd find out about my curse through her? I shrug. I can only assume that your curse has something to do with Viorica. I look up when Rod says something, then stare at the curious sight before me. He has taken Sabi off of his shoulder and is holding the doll in his hands, away from his face. The two seem to be engaged in some silent conversation. Then gently, Sabi speaks words I can hear. This is the right thing to do. You need to let her help you, Rod. Please, let us help you. Rod bites down on his lower lip before briefly closing his eyes. Eventually, he returns Sabi to his usual spot on his shoulder and turns to me. Fine. You're stubborn and you're not going to quit investigating unless I tell you, are you? You're right. Viorica is the reason I was cursed. Rod sits down on the settee and lets out a heavy sigh. His eyes are far away as he speaks to me. I was in love with Viorica. I fucking called it! But I wasn't brave enough to tell her. I just followed her around like some kind of puppy. One day, Viorica hadn't come home, and it was raining very heavily, so I went out to look for her. I found her walking along the bank of the river. I called out to her to tell her to be careful, but I don't think she ever heard me. She slipped and... Rod swallows. He clenches one of his hands into a fist. She fell into the river. I dived in after her. I somehow managed to get both of us onto the riverbank, but it didn't look like Viorica was breathing. I didn't know what to do. I started panicking. I ran off to try and find help, but I couldn't find anyone in the storm. When I returned, she was gone. I rushed to her house and the doctor was already there tending to her along with Desmond. Rod's gaze is vacant as he nods. When Viorica began to fall in love with Desmond, I felt helpless. Did you not tell her that you were the one that saved her? Why would I? Viorica was so happy believing that she and Desmond were fated to be together. I couldn't do that to her. But surely if you told her... Rod interrupts me. I want the people I love to be happy. I don't care if their happiness causes me pain. I'd rather bear that alone instead of bringing down those around me. So he feels the same way I do. That's sweet of him. My chest aches as I watch Rod's face. I never would have guessed that Rod would be so selfless. But that didn't stop me from thinking that I could still make her love me instead. I decided to become what I thought Viorica wanted most, the Prince Charming of the fairy tales she so adored. And so I asked the witch to turn me into one. She stole my voice in exchange. Only then did I realize that she has inflicted the Fairytale Curse upon me, the Mermaid's Curse. The next day, the king turned up at our house, proclaiming that he'd been looking for my mother for years, and that he'd never stopped loving her. When the king married my mother, I became a prince. It was just as the witch promised. So... Did he... Well, it was confirmed in Karma's route that the king really loved Ophelia, so... And plus it was confirmed here too that he really loved her, and he was able to confess. So I guess the witch made him confess? Probably. But it didn't matter. I didn't see it when I made the deal with the witch, but I couldn't be so blind to it forever. Decimate and Virica really do love each other. They make each other happy. Nothing I can do will ever change that. Rod, Prince Rod? Oh! Parfait pauses in her tracks when she sees me. Have I interrupted something? No. Rod moves over to Parfait, but he stops to glance back at me. I won't be long. Parfait looks at Rod and then at me, her face puzzled, but she does not say a word as Rod and her leave the room. Aw, Rod, I want to hug him. I feel so bad. Because I know how that feels to love someone and you can't really say it to him, but when you say it, it's too late. That's what happened to me before. A couple of times, in fact, but I know how he feels. I did not get the chance to discuss Rod's curse with him later that night, nor did I get the chance to speak with Parfait and Delora about my suspicions of Sir Alcaster. Days go by, but I still find myself overwhelmed by preparations for the ball. Things become more frantic every day, making it difficult for me to have any time to speak with anyone. Eventually, I decide to write a letter complaining my suspicions of Sir Alcaster. I tell Parfait and Delora that I might believe he might be the witch they are looking for. I also add that I believe Fritz might somehow be involved, though my suspicions are not as well founded with him. No, he's not involved in this. Fritz is so innocent. To make matters worse, he went and disappeared. I have not heard anyone mention his name here for a very long time. I'm forcefully pulled from my thoughts when I collide with someone. The linens I had been holding scatter over the floor. Excuse me, I did not... I look up and my voice trails off when I see who I bumped into. Oh, fuck. I didn't mean to make it to my throat. Fuck. Lost in your thoughts. Sir Mythros looks at me, something veiled in his smiling eyes. I suppose those are linens the queen asked for? Yes. Please excuse me. I begin gathering up the linens, but as I reach out for one, Sir Mythros picks it up first. Allow me to help you. I will be fine. But this was partially my fault. Let me assist you. I bite my lip and do not protest as Sir Mythros helps me gather the rest of the linens. I'm contemplating my schedule for the rest of the day when I realize that Sir Mythros has been talking. I don't suppose you have any idea on who that maid is? Maid? There's a cold amusement in Sir Mythros' gaze. Surely you've heard the rumor of the young prince having been seen with a royal maid somewhere around town. You saw nothing! Rumor has it that Prince Rod has found love among the common folk, much like his royal stepfather has. Well, be quiet! Rod with a maid? As far as I'm aware, the only maid he has been out with in town has been... I freeze as Sir Mythros straightens, patting down his clothes for dust before holding out some of the linens to me. If it is true, I wish him the best, though I wish he would be more discreet about it. A royal scandal is the last thing we need right now. Mythros, please. I shakily take the linens from Sir Mythros as he inclines his head to me. Have a good day, Rena. Bye? He creeps me out even more right now. I walk to the dining hall in a haze, my mind whirling with the implications of what Sir Mythros just said. I'm sure it was those noblewomen who spread this rumor. Ah, Rena, thank you for bringing these to me. Just leave them on the table. I curtsy after placing the linens down as commanded. If that is all... Rena. I straighten at the tone of Ophelia's voice. When I look up, I see that her expression is carefully still. I am about to ask you something that you might not want to answer, but I very much hope you will. I will answer if I can. Good. Ophelia sighs as she sits down on one of the dining table chairs and folds her hands onto her lap. I've been trying to ignore it since the palace gossip is mostly false, but I can't help my curiosity. I wanted to ask about your relationship with my son. What? I understand you and Rod were out together in town a few days ago. Do you want to tell me what happened? Save! I want to explain the situation. What if this gains a point for Rod? I don't know! I'd explain the situation to her, honestly. If Ophelia is asking me about these rumors, then I can only imagine what sort of story those women made up. Prince Rod was just on his way somewhere when he chanced upon me. When he saw that I was in trouble with two noblewomen, he stopped to intervene. That is all. Rod said the same thing. Then why did you ask me, Your Majesty? To see what you thought about the situation. I don't think anyone should get a say in what your relationship with Rod is. My relationship with Rod? Oh, yay! I like you, Rana, and I'm certain that you're good for Rod. If I had my way, I would let him court you. Oh, Ophelia has our blessing! That's amazing! Oh, she's blushing too. That's amazing. I feel heat in my cheeks as I trip over my words. The prince and I are not in a relationship. A member of the royal family cannot end up with a servant. Where there's love, there's hope. Social status shouldn't stop you from being happy, Rana. Then what about the fact that I am Rod's stepsister? Oh yeah, that's what weirds me out the entire time. I bite down on that statement fiercely. I already know what role I am playing here, and I cannot break it. Ophelia looks at me with a complicated expression before she sighs. I will not push you on this any further. But be careful, Rana. Your closeness with my son and daughter has not gone unnoticed. I do not believe in limiting relationships because of one's status, but I understand. I curtsy as I move toward the dining hall's entrance. What did Ophelia mean by that closeness not going unnoticed? Later that day, as I am waiting outside the throne room for Emma Lane to finish one of her classes, two maids walk toward me and stop in front of me. Rana, isn't it? What is it? I have already finished all of my tasks for the day. Oh, I'm sure you have. Probably rushed through all of them so that you can hang around the prince and princess tonight. Oh my god, please shut up. The head housekeeper has been giving you a lighter load so you can afford the time to play around, I blink at them, confused. I have no idea what you are talking about. Don't play dumb. All the servants know what you've been doing. Just because you're Princess Emmeline's personal maid doesn't make you better than the rest of us. I'd be careful not to get too big for your boots, Rana. Are you threatening me? What if we are? Then I'd be very disappointed in you. Who that? Emmeline! But Princess Emmeline! Emmeline moves to stand beside me, a disapproving expression on her face. I did not expect such petty cruelty from the two of you. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Your Highness, you really do have a talent for getting yourself into trouble. This wasn't my fault, okay, Rod? Please stop. Rod pauses briefly, his eyes meeting mine for a second before he looks at the maids. Oh, he was talking to the maids. Sorry. Don't you have better things to do than bully my sister's maid? We apologize, Your Highness. We'll be on our way. The two maids run off. Emmeline turns to look at me. Are you okay? I'm about to answer when I notice Rod is abruptly walking away from us. I frowned at his back. He had only just started being nice to me, and now he's back to acting as if I do not exist. What did I do? Emmeline puts her hands on my back and gently pushes me forward. You wanted to ask him something, right? I could see it in your eyes. Emmeline smiles as she pushes the door to the throne room open. I have a few more questions to ask my teacher. I'll be a while. But she disappears into the throne room before I can finish. I glance down the hallway. Rod just disappeared down, and then back at the throne room. My thoughts whirl together in a vague mess until I make my decision. Wait! At the sound of my approaching footsteps, Rod turns and looks at me. He scowls, but does not say anything. Tell him off for his behavior or say nothing. I'm saving first! I'm gonna say nothing. Let's see what happens if I say nothing. I feel abruptly tongue-tied when I come face to face with him. It is likely that my telling off would result in some sort of altercation, and that would not be good. What? I have better things to do than be gaped at. Rod turns away from me. I am left to stare dumbly after him. What is wrong with him? Normally he is not so afraid to speak his mind. I frown as I feel a dull ache throbbing somewhere deep in my chest. What is this? Why do I feel so sad? Normally Rod's distance does not make me feel like this. And yet now, am I really so sad that he does not want to speak with me? I shake my head and take a deep breath to still my mind. It is better not to think about it. Chapter 8. The ball! Okay, wait, I want to go back and change my choice. So I'll just be right back and see what happens if I tell him off. Okay, let's tell him off. The words spill out of me before I can even think on them. What have I done to make you angry with me? Nothing. He turns away and I glare as I follow closely behind him. You expect me to believe that? You can at least look at me when I am talking to you. I reach out a hand to his elbow and pull him back so that he is facing me. Rod. But the words die in my throat when I see the expression on his face. Oh, at this point, I just want to hug him right now. His face is red and he refuses to look me in the eye. Oh, point! My surprise causes me to release him. Rod quickly turns around and begins to walk away. I'm left to stare dumbly after him. Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna skip to chapter 8 now. Alright, so this is actually a good stopping point for today. We just finished chapter 7. We have 2 more chapters. We're on chapter 8 right now. So we'll be finishing up Rod's route soon enough. I'm so glad that things are warming up actually. Even though Rod is becoming a little more distant, I feel like things are kind of working out for them. But it'll take time. But at least we know why Rod was cursed. I'm glad that we know. I feel so bad for him at this point. I feel bad for kind of lashing out on him, but who can blame him? He was trying to keep a secret, really. Everybody has their secrets. Alright, so with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you guys would like to see more of my videos, then click subscribe. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!